Welcome to Q&A. Questions need answers. I'm your host, James Munch II. Most people know me as Munch. Around town, this is a space where we invite honest conversation, critical thinking, and community dialogue. And, today we have none other than candidate for judge. What group?
Group 5, Arthur, Marty, McNeil.
And tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Well, first, thank you for having me on here today. It's a pleasure to be here with you today, Munch. My name, again, is Arthur Marty McNeil. I'm running for Circuit Court Judge in Group 5. A little bit about me. I am not originally from Miami. I believe I'm actually the only judicial candidate who's not originally from Miami.
You got that out the way early.
Yes, but so interesting story. Miami's always been in my heart. So as a child, I grew up in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Okay.
If you're familiar with the military, Fort Bragg is the Army base right next door. And as a child, my family came to Miami for a cruise one time when I was young. Man, I instantly fell in love coming from Fayetteville. I was like, man, this is where I want to be when I grow up. So going on later through life, graduate law school, and I get a job at the public defender's office in Miami. God saw fit to bless me with what I wanted, and moved down here 21 years ago. Been here ever since. So it's a place I've lived the longest on my own. So I consider myself a Miamian at this point, but I'm not originally from here.
Well, you've been here long enough. How long you been here?
21 years. 21 years.
You're Miami.
And growing up, University of Miami football.
Come on. You're good. You check the boxes. No Dolphins. As long as you got the Heat and the Hurricanes, it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about growing, your life growing up in North Carolina.
So growing up in North Carolina, I really had the benefit of a village raising a family. Mm-hmm. My relatives, a lot of them lived on the same road. We grew up in rural North Carolina, so it was a dirt road, 3, 4 aunts, uncles on the same road, grandparents lived right across the street. And then we had my church community where everybody kind of really poured into me and invested in me and my family. And it was great to see. And it was one thing that always stuck with me. And that's one of the reasons why I always volunteer in the community wherever I'm at. Because I know that, like I said, it takes a village to raise a child. Mm-hmm. And the more people you have showing you positivity and showing you that you can do something, the better your odds are achieving it. So that was one of the big things that I really appreciated about my upbringing.
All right, so how did you get into law?
So I watched a lot of television as a child, and one of my favorite lawyers was Claire Huxtable on the Cosby Show.
Okay.
Right? I mean, like if you ever saw Claire cross-examine somebody, it was over. It was over.
Yeah.
So I grew up admiring that style of cross-examination. It was always with a smile, Also, Matlock was one of my heroes growing up because
I grew up on Matlock.
Yeah, okay. He always stood by the little guy. He wasn't going to leave anybody out there hanging, and he did right by the people. Yeah. So those were two people that kind of influenced me to go into law. The first time I ever met an actual lawyer was in high school, and that was, brief exchange. We got in a car accident, and, he represented us in the case, but that was it. It wasn't like a relationship or anything like that. So it wasn't actually until law school that I really started meeting and seeing lawyers, and seeing lawyers that looked like me, that were judges and things like that, really kind of made a lasting impression. So that was my intro into law.
So you never aspired other than the shows, of course. That was like the aspiration for it.
Well, that was one of the seeds that was planted. So growing up, I did want. You asked me, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a lawyer. Ironically, when they said, what type of lawyer? I didn't know, PI, tort, civil rights, all that stuff. A rich one, because that's what that's what lawyers were, right?
Yeah.
But then get a job at the public defender's office, and that was really where I enjoyed practicing. Working for the people, helping those that couldn't normally afford a lawyer, right? Mm-hmm. I was in private practice for 8 years, and during that time, I enjoyed private practice, but one of the most disappointing aspects of it was you have a conversation with somebody, you really want to work with them, you see the impact that this case is having on them and their family, and then you slide a retainer across the table and you say, well, this is my fee to help you out on this case.
$10,000. Half a leg.
And most people in the criminal justice world, most criminal defendants aren't there because they got stacks of cash just laying around.
Yeah.
So It was a lot of people that, I wanted to help, but it's like, this is a business. And that was one of the things that, encouraged me to go back to the PD's office, was because it's just a pure practice of law. You don't have the business of law. You don't have to turn people away. You don't have to even get into those conversations about money. It's like, all right, you need help. Let me help.
I like that. So where did you practice law?
I've always practiced in Florida, South Florida. And I started at the PD's office, public defender's office.
I guess the question is, where did you go to school for it? That's what I meant to say.
So where I went to school, that's all right. Where I went to law school was Howard University in Washington, D.C.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
HBCU.
Yes.
What is that thing? HU,
Yeah.
That's what it is?
Yeah.
I be trying to remember. Look, man, I did not go to college. I went to a small community college in Arizona, okay? I'm not a part of that culture. Don't take away my black card.
That's all right. All right. So repeat after me. I say HU, you say you know.
Yeah. Because I just recently, it was so crazy. I recently went to, I'm a part of a drug treatment program.
Okay.
With University of Miami, Jesse Trice, some other partners. And it's a national research on opioid use disorder, like medicated opioid use disorder. So it's called Better Together. And when we, so it's Howard is leading the study, the research. Howard is leading it. Chicago, I think it's University of Illinois.
Okay.
Baltimore, I think it's University of Baltimore or something like that, and the University of Maryland. So all 3-4 sites, all meet together. So that's how I met. I went to Howard. I was actually in Howard when it was the end of 2024.
Okay.
Yeah, and I actually went to Howard and seen, like, it was on campus and everything.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place.
Yeah. Chocolate City ain't Chocolate City like it used to be, but it's still there.
Yes.
To some degree. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes.
So let's move back to you practice law. You started practicing law here in Miami.
Yes.
And you wanted to go to the public defender's office, and as opposed to private practice. So I guess what were some of the cases that really impacted you to want to become a judge? Since you're a candidate for judge now.
Right. So I've had a number of cases, and sometimes it's not necessarily the ones that I've handled that made me want to be a judge, but it's the ones where you're sitting in court, you're watching court go on because, well, it's not my client, not my case, but I got something to call later, so I'll wait. And you see things happen in court. You see situations arise, and it's like, not my job. I can't get involved. It's not my client, not my case. And so I believe that, if you want to see change, if you want things to go the way you think they should go, the only way to do that is to get involved in being able to make those decisions. So that's one of the things that really inspired me to become a judge. Another, I'll tell you, is an aunt of mine the day I got sworn in. So I had about 10 or so relatives come from Fayetteville, North Carolina, down to my swearing in 2007 when I got sworn in as an attorney. And immediately after I'm sworn in, before the ink is dry on the paper, my aunt turns to me and she says, all right, now I want you to work on becoming a judge. And I'm like, Auntie, okay, but right. The ink ain't dry yet. I got at least 5 years before I can do that. But then, she planted the seed. She was an aunt that was close to me. She was an entrepreneur. Her and her husband were both entrepreneurs back in Fayetteville. And they were people that I looked up to growing up. So you know how it goes. Your aunt, your uncle tell you this is what you got to do. Yeah. You start working towards it.
And that's the importance of that village you speak of.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's not just that the nuclear family, the family that you're closest to in the household with, but other people around that also had that influence on you.
Yes.
So what was some of the, I guess, in the public defender's office and you becoming a judge, what are some of the, I don't want to say some of the shortfalls of in the public defender's office that, maybe as a judge we can improve on? Is there some things that you can improve on that level? Well,
the public defender's office is separate from the judicial office. So the best advice or the best things that I could do would be to help younger attorneys and tell them, my experience as a practitioner, my experience as a lawyer, and kind of these are the things that judges may consider or the judges may think when you guys are making arguments. And then, of course, it would apply to the state's side as well, because judges are neutral and independent. We can't, all right, this is the playbook, this is how you do that. We can't do that with one side and not the other. So just kind of being that mentor to younger attorneys and helping them, learn the ropes. A lot of times younger attorneys make mistakes, not necessarily because they want to, just because they're young, they don't necessarily have the experience, and they're trying to figure things out as they go, right? So as many people as you can, helping and giving advice about the legal practice and the practice in court, that's the best advice and tips and whatnot that I can give.
I guess the stigma from years past has always been like, y'all get a stack of cases. Has it gotten better over the years?
In some ways it has. One of the things, so I was a supervising attorney at the public defender's office during my time there. And some of the things that we did were adjusting people's caseload. So some judges have lower caseloads than other judges. So one judge may have a caseload of, let's say, 300. Another one may have a caseload of 500 to 800.
You talking about judges or the actual PD?
So the judges.
Oh, okay.
And then if that judge has that higher caseload, that means the PD in that courtroom is going to have a higher caseload versus the PD in the courtroom where the judge has a lower caseload. So sometimes we would do caseload adjustments where, okay, this person has more work, we're going to shift some of it over to another attorney. You get the experience of practicing in front of a different judge, and that kind of helps level out the playing field so one person isn't carrying a whole lot more cases than another.
So you saying, and I'm not making it law, pun intended, but because I be trying to understand like how, because a lot of us don't really understand how the system works. Right. So you're saying like a PD, a public defender, most often are they relegated to one court or they go to like multiple courts?
So it depends on what division or unit they're in. So when you first start out, typically the attorneys may be assigned to some of the misdemeanor courtrooms or our early representation unit. And the early representation unit is a unit that handles felony cases from arrest up until the time the state files charges. So it's a shorter period of time, normally typically about 21 to 33 days. And they have those cases, they're working on issues like getting clients released out of custody, modifying conditions of release. So if someone's on house arrest, perhaps they get the ability to go to work, things like that. And then other people may be assigned to the misdemeanor domestic violence unit or the county court unit. And so they are typically, if they're in county court, they're assigned to a specific judge's courtroom. If they're in an early representation unit, they go around, they may have like 3 or 4 different courtrooms that they go to, but because their cases take, they're only going to have their client for a shorter period of time, they have that ability to go to multiple courtrooms versus somebody who, okay, it's your trial week and you've got 30, 40 clients that'll be coming through that week. You're going to need to be in that one specific courtroom and not bouncing all around the courthouse trying to address the cases. Once you get more advanced in some of the more specialized units, then you're not necessarily assigned to a particular judge because your cases may be in different courtrooms because you're in a more advanced unit. That's where I'm at now.
Okay, yeah, I asked that question because I learned a lot in one of our last interviews with Miss Benita Jones Peabody. And so we talked about how the court system, the chief judge, the different groups, different things of that nature. So with that being said, what all, I guess, forms or types of law have you practiced?
So as an assistant public defender, we practice criminal defense. So while there, I've been assigned I started out at the domestic violence unit. Judge Orlando Prescott was a judge that swore me in. He was the first judge that I practiced in front of. From there, I was in the county court division in county jail. So that is a unit where we're handling the cases of clients who are unable to bond out on misdemeanor cases and they're still in jail. Sometimes it may be because they have an accompanying felony or just they can't afford a misdemeanor bond to get out of custody. From there, I went to a regular county unit where my clients were out of custody. And then from there, I went to a different, assigned to a specific judge. Then I left the public defender's office and went into private practice. And for about 8 years, I was in private practice running my own firm. I handled criminal defense, I handled civil law, I handled family law, I did some delinquency and dependency type cases, which is dealing with juveniles where either they're accused of a crime or where the state is trying to terminate someone's parental rights. I was also a Supreme Court certified circuit civil court mediator. And a mediator, kind of like a judge, except they don't have the ability to make somebody do something. A mediator, what we would do in that is we'd have two sides that disagree, a plaintiff and a defendant, and we try to help them both reach an agreement that they could both live with, right? And what I tell people when I'm doing mediation is like, I can't force you to take this offer. I can't force you to make this offer. But here's what I can tell you. If you go to court, it could very well be a situation where both of you leave feeling like you didn't get what you wanted. But while we're in this room, you can make sure that you get what's important to you. You can make sure you get what's important to you. When y'all both walk out of here, y'all can both say, I won. I got what I wanted. I'm satisfied with the judgment. Versus in court, the judge says, this is what it's going to be, and both sides are stuck with it. And then in 2016, I went back to the public defender's office. And from there, I was a regular trial attorney. Then I became a training attorney. So when attorneys were new to the felony division, I would train them. I would show them how to do cross-examinations, how to do a voir dire, how to try cases. I would actually go to trial with them. So it's their case. But I'm, the phrase I use is I'm like their Sherpa, guiding them up the mountain, making sure they don't make a dangerous misstep. And after that, I was a supervising attorney where I still did some of the training, but it was more administration stuff. So disciplinary issues, resolving disputes or problems, issues with the judge and an APD, and other internal mechanisms within the office.
So while you was talking, it made me think about something like that I always find like interesting. You have civil cases and then you have criminal cases.
Yes.
Right? So it's been some situations that have played out in the media or wherever where this person may not, be found guilty. But in the civil case, it's a totally different turnout.
Correct.
Right? So could you explain, just make make it make sense to me in some type of ways? Because like in a criminal way, they were, found not guilty, but then they reach an agreement to pay out all this money on the civil case.
Civil side.
And I be trying to understand it. I don't necessarily understand it all the way.
Okay. So the easiest example I can give you, and I'll use your book case as as an example. In the criminal realm, the burden of proof is proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
Okay.
So that would be a higher burden. That may be here. And in the civil world, it's preponderance of the evidence. So essentially, which side provides 50.1% more evidence that credible evidence that their side is believable. So criminal, the standard may be up here. Civil, it may be down here. So someone could be found not guilty criminally because, let's say it was, the proof was right here. It wasn't quite beyond a reasonable doubt, but it was more than a preponderance. So they also realize that in the civil world, this is about money. And if you got somebody with a lot of it, they can afford to lose some money and still be all right. And so they decide to cut that check because they know if they take it in front of a jury, they may end up paying more.
Because I looked at like certain cases that have happened over time where we think about like a lot of these cases where there's our young black men, lose their life at the hands of the police or whatnot, or like Diddy's case where he had a civil case and he had the criminal. He paid out a lot of money. He tried to settle it, and criminal, and you would think that, okay, he's trying to get off the criminal or he was excused, and they're like, nope.
And that's another important distinction too, because that criminal case only came about once the civil lawsuit was filed. And once that happens, once the government gets involved, the participants, I'll say to an extent, lose the autonomy, the freedom to do exactly as they want to do, right? So person gets satisfied in a civil judgment, I've been paid, I've been made whole civilly, I'm fine with it. Everything else is done. But if the state comes in and says, okay, here's a subpoena, you're going to have to come to court and talk about the contents of that civil lawsuit, they've got no choice.
Yeah.
So they're along for that ride as long as the state or the government says, you got to come and answer us with this subpoena.
Yeah, I've seen that a couple times, and I always questioned it.
Yeah.
I'm like, it almost is like it's the admission of guilt. Almost like not it's not, but it seems that way when y'all paid this off, and then that case comes and you and I always used to tell people a lot of times that was the state took that case. It wasn't personal, you know what I'm saying? So I understood that little nuance, but I just wanted to understand how do they get there, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so being a judge, what are some of the things I guess that you look forward to presiding over, or what are some things you're looking forward to as a judge, just in general?
Well, some of the things I'm looking forward to as a judge, one is being able to bring my background, my knowledge, my experience to the bench, and being able to help people in the community kind of understand, like we're doing here, understand more about the legal process, understand more about courtrooms and how they work. I believe that we need to have representation on every level of government, from every area, every community, right? And I think that I have a unique set of skills. I have a unique upbringing that helps me walk into almost any room and kind of understand what's going on and participate actively in what's going on. So I believe that will translate well to the bench, because you're going to meet people from all walks of life. Jury selection is one of my favorite parts of a criminal case, because when the jury comes into the room, you're going to get 30, 60 members of the community of, Dade County almost has 3 million people, right? But you're going to get 60, sometimes 100 at most. And you have to be able to talk to them and explain your client's case to them in a way that they can understand. My background, I've been blessed to have a very diverse background, very different background, I believe. So I've been in circles with people that, you normally might look at me and say, oh, he doesn't know anything about that. But I actually do, So I think that's a good thing to bring to the bench. And in the black community, I think it's great because, when I was that young black attorney and I'm in front of a black judge, I get to see somebody that looks like me on the bench. That was powerful because, he's an educated brother, he's smart, he's knowledgeable, he's compassionate, and he tries to do the right thing and get to the right decision, right? I know that there's no ulterior motive behind his decisions and things like that. And I believe that being able to see somebody that represents you brings a sense of hope to people that, okay, I can trust the process. I can trust what's happening here. And that's one of the things I look forward to bringing to the bench.
That's good, man. I was running through all the different things because I learned so much in the last few we did about the system and what are some of those things that what are some of the differences or what are some of the things that you would or experiences you bring as a trial attorney that you would bring into being the judge?
Well, one of the things is knowing how to try a case. As a circuit court judge, you are a trial judge, right? How would you feel going before a judge that hasn't tried a good number of cases? So while your case, which is, everyone's case is the most important case to them, right? This is the thing that affects my life, affects my livelihood, it affects my family. And then, you find out that the judge has never tried a case before, or the judge has fewer trials than you have fingers and toes. That's not going to be that comforting feeling that, okay, they know what they're doing. I've tried cases in front of judges that didn't have criminal court experience. And sometimes it would show. But you work through it. You have to, as the lawyer, I have to present my case. I have to come prepared. I have to present the case law. I have to do what I'm supposed to do to make sure the judge is able to make the right decision and bring that to them. So that's been an experience that I've had.
How does that even happen? Because that seems like it's not a rare occasion. It has happened more often than not. It seems
Yes.
like. So how do you become a judge and you haven't even tried a case? Like, how is that even possible?
Well, there's two ways that judges become judges in the state of Florida. One way is by running for election, and that's what I'm doing. In an election, you put your name out there, you put your reputation out there, you put your experiences out there, and you put it to the people, and the people have their say as to who they'd like to represent them. Another way is to be appointed by the governor. So if you win by an election, your term is for 6 years, and then every 6 years you have to run for re-election. If you're appointed by the governor, that's a process that goes through the JNC, Judicial Nomination Committee, and they nominate a number of people for a vacancy, and then they go and interview with the governor and his cabinet, and the governor decides out of this list of 6 or so people, this is going to be the person I appoint for this seat. And they get appointed for an initial 2-year term, and then they run for re-election. If they win, then it's every 6 years after that. So sometimes people are appointed because the governor believes that this is the best candidate for the job, but they may not have as many trials as some of the other candidates. So those are the two ways that people get appointed, become judges.
Do you think, not to cut you off, but do you think because of the current situation we're dealing with in this administration, do you think appointing judges is more political than it is like nonpartisan?
So there's several layers, I'll say, to the appointment process, right? The first step, they have to fill out an application and submit it to the Judicial Nominating Committee. And then that committee is a group of, I want to say around 10 individuals. Sometimes it's a little bit more, sometimes a little less, that they're attorneys, and they interview the candidates, and they put forth a list of at least 6 individuals that they then send up to the governor. And they do a very good job of vetting individuals, but again, they don't say, here's the one person that's going to be the judge. They say, out of the people that applied, these are the best 6. And they send that up to the governor, and then the governor gets to make the ultimate decision as to who's going to be the judge for that seat. So I've known some judges that have applied. They're judges now, but they've applied, their name's gone up 20 times to the governor before they get the final appointment. Some people go up and they get an appointment, very quickly. Some people have gone up and got an appointment the first Friday gone up. So it's a
pretty vetted, fair process is what you're saying.
There's several layers of vetting throughout it, but at the end of the day, it's a selection by one person. One person ultimately gets to say versus all the residents of the county.
That's good to know. The reason why I asked is because, like, in the era of Trump, right? I feel like, especially like, I know that in this state, we have like, the governor has appointed judges, a lot of judges, right? And between Ron DeSantis and Charlie Crist, majority of the judges, I guess, in the state Supreme Court, especially in the appeals court and whatnot, are appointments that they made. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I'm always curious to that because, this country tried to, I guess, impeach Trump, say he did all these illegal things, and they found him guilty. He go to the appeals court, so the judges he stacked, and then he just gets out of it. And I'm like, how does that? I'm like, something's wrong there. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm glad you clarified that it's a process. Like, it ain't just like he just handpicked them. I thought it was just like if they appointed. I just totally disregarded it even being a selection committee. You know what I'm saying? So I'm glad that you clarified that. So you're in group 5, right?
Yes.
So what I learned in the last interview is that you have the chief judge. Is it true that y'all have the chief judge, and the chief judge then makes the appointments about what courts that what law that y'all will be practicing?
Yes.
And things of that nature?
Yes. So
how does group 5, I guess my question is, how does group 5 differ from 69?
Okay. So group 5, what I'll say, how it differs from group 69 is that, easy analogy I'll give is like we're trying out for a position on a sports team, right? playing football, use that as an example. I may be trying out for linebacker. You may be trying out for linebacker. Someone else may be trying out for running back. Somebody else may be trying out for a lineman. So you're going to have your groups kind of like that. And I'm in group 5. It's one of the 2 3-person races. So under Florida law, if nobody gets 50 plus 1 on the primary day, then it goes to a runoff. So the winner of Group 5, which I'm hoping the residents of Miami-Dade County will select that as me, would then put in our preference of what areas we like to practice before the chief judge. And she makes the assignment based off of seniority. So let's say you've got a judge who's been on the bench for 20, 30 years. Obviously, they're going to get priority over their assignment than the new judge just coming in. And that's the short way of how the judge gets to assign divisions. And also, like, whatever vacancies that say nobody wants to try out for running back, everybody wants to be linebacker, lineman, or a receiver. Eventually somebody's going to have to get put in that spot. They may not be excited or enthused about going there, but that's the spot that they'll be in. That's where the residents of Miami-Dade County need them to serve, and that's where they end up serving. I have seen judges kind of get out of their comfort zone going to different areas and do well, though, because, at the end of the day, the brain is a muscle, right? You exercise in a different area of it by practicing a different area of law. So I've seen judges come from criminal, a background of criminal experience, and go to civil and do well. I've seen some judges with a civil experience come over to criminal and do well as well. So that's kind of how the judges get assigned.
Well, I think you may have answered it when you talked about like judges having to go somewhere they don't normally go. But in your experience, and I don't want to make this a thing against people who are seniority, but do you think that it should be the way the current system is? Do you think judges should be there for like a shorter period of time? Like as far as like, if you've been practicing for 10 years, do you think somebody else should come in there and they should just retire? Or do you think like they should just practice it however long that they desire to?
I think that the current system is good. And the reason being, one of the things that you don't want to necessarily lose is that institutional knowledge, right? If you have a judge that's doing very well in a specific division or a specific area, you don't necessarily want to create a system that says, okay, well, time's up, you got to move to somewhere else and lose that institutional knowledge. A lot of times, this is one of the mistakes I made as a practitioner early on in my career. You're in front of a judge and there's the belief or the thought that the judge knows everything, right? Because they're a judge. You kind of quickly find out that all judges, no one person is a repository of all knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So every judge doesn't know every area, but once they build and they get that experience, they see the cases come before them and they address the issues, they do the research, they've got some institutional knowledge about this. And if you then say, okay, well, listen, there's a rule that says 2 months or 2 years, you got to move. Now we're taking that judge that's just done that workout, exercised that brain, learned all this stuff, and putting them somewhere else and saying, do the same thing again, while we're putting somebody else there that doesn't have that knowledge or that experience in that arena, and we're constantly kind of shuffling the deck. So I think it's good the way it currently is, where judges with knowledge and wisdom can stay there as long as they want, and as long as they have the seniority. But eventually, typically, most judges will rotate. There are very few that have gone to one division and just stayed there their entire career and retired from that spot.
So they do rotate.
Yes, they do rotate.
All right. So our last question, close. Tell the people why they should vote for you.
All right. So thank you for that very important question. I believe that the people of Miami-Dade County should vote for me because I'm the best candidate for this position. I've been a trial attorney my entire career. I've tried over 65 cases. In addition to being a trial attorney, I've been a managing attorney at a law firm, at a very large law firm that has over 200 attorneys. I have practiced daily in court, so it's not just that I've seen it done once or twice. I've been to court daily for years practicing in Miami-Dade County, and I have the experience and the knowledge to be a judge. In addition to that, I've been vested in the community in Miami-Dade County. All throughout my life, starting in high school, I was a mentor to people. I became a peer academic leader in high school, and one of the things we did was we went back to my elementary school and we mentored and tutored students there. I also mentored special needs students at my high school. So people that normally everyone else would kind of ostracize and pick on, I was one of the mentors and tutors for them, helping them realize that, hey, you are important. You do have some value to this world. Hold your head up high, you are somebody. In undergrad and law school, I also mentored, and coming down to Miami, two of the things that I always did, one was renew a library card, three. Get a library card, register to vote, and then find somewhere to mentor. Find somewhere that I can use my talents, my gifts, my abilities, my life experiences to help bring somebody else up and to help them reach their full potential. So some of the volunteering experiences have been helping people seal or expunge a criminal arrest, going to the high schools and middle schools around Miami-Dade County, talking about the consequences of an arrest and how they can affect someone's life. Presenting Play It Smart seminars, which talk to youth, focus primarily on having positive interactions with law enforcement. A lot of times youth will see the police and, fear rises up and what do you do if you're afraid? There's a fight or flight. So let me remove myself from the situation. And what happens is that then makes an officer say, well, you're running for me, so you must have done something. And lawfully they can apprehend them, So just talking to kids about how to have a positive interaction with law enforcement and not let that lead to someone getting arrested, someone's future being derailed. I've mentored or volunteered at my church. I've fully been invested in the Miami-Dade community, and I believe that public service is another way, or continuing public service is another way for me to give back to the community and make it better. So my punch number is 121, and that's because I am the one to represent every one of you. And I hope that the residents of Miami-Dade County would vote for me on August the 18th during the primary election, or if you early vote or use absentee ballots. Early voting starts August the 3rd through the 16th. Absentee ballots have already been sent out. So I appreciate your vote and your support, and I look forward to serving the community in another arena.
So y'all heard it here first. Arthur McNeil, okay? I tried my best to get the judges here. We always short the judges. We always short the amendments. So the Q&A, our thing was goal for this year. We got other candidates, but my goal for this year was to make sure y'all heard from the judges. It's not so much an endorsement, but it's just telling y'all, putting y'all in front of these, putting them in front of you guys, and you guys make the decision. You get to know who they are as people. You know what I mean? This candidate thing is elections is elections, but I want you to know who these people are at the core, not the title and the positions they hold. So I hope y'all get that, and we'll see y'all later. Stay tuned for the next episode. And yeah, you can find all the follow, like, subscribe on YouTube. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple. And you can catch all the episodes that we've released so far, especially the ones during this election season. We're going to continue to, give you more candidates so you can hear from them and see who these people are truly. You know what I'm saying? So I hope y'all enjoy it. Follow, like, and subscribe on YouTube. Peace. See y'all later.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Man, appreciate you, man.
Yes,
appreciate
sir.
You.